Hey guys, Jengar here. Welcome to today's realistic review in which we are taking a look at the Wildcats, the F4F-3 and the F4F-4, sitting at 2.7 battle rating in the American line. The Wildcats are a naval fighter that is famed throughout history for its role in the beginning of the Second World War, where it basically held the line against the Japanese Zero. There were not many other planes available at that time, and this thing, despite its limitations, did an heroic job to give competition to the Zeros, which was hard because the Zeros in the beginning of the war were very good compared to anything that they faced. So the pilots that flew these Wildcats were heroes basically. And these planes are fun to fly in War Thunder as well. Now there are slight differences between these two. The 3 has 450 cals, the 4 has 650 cals, and they sit a little bit wider in the wings. With this extra weight, the 4 is a little bit less maneuverable, especially in the roll rate, but it does have a little bit of extra firepower. The engines are the same for the rest, the flight style is the same, the frame is the same. Everything is the same basically, except for those guns and the differences that entails for these two planes. It is basically a personal choice whether you want a little bit more roll rate and maneuverability or whether you want the extra firepower. That is a choice you have to make yourself. Now, if you do enjoy the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. That really helps me out. I always love to see comments, so give me a comment if you're thinking about it. What do you like about this plane? Did you fly them a lot? Which one do you prefer? Let me know in the comments. I really love the interaction. I try to answer everything that you throw at me. Now for the rest, do subscribe to the channel, of course, if you are not subscribed yet. There is a lot of content on the way. Rank 2 US is the thing that we're working on right now, so you'll be seeing a lot of rank 2 American reviews while we are collecting footage. Now for the rest, do join me on Locals and on Rumble, my other two platforms. I really appreciate if you take the time to do that. On Locals you can even support me financially if that is what you would love to do. If you do, I highly appreciate that as well, of course. That is fantastic. Now the Wildcats, the maximum speed at sea level without WEP is 442 kilometers an hour. With WEP 443, and after that it loses speed with WEP at sea level. This is very funny to see, but it just goes up one tick and then it goes down. I tried it out several times in test flight, but it just doesn't improve. The WEP at the moment I think is broken on the Wildcats, and you just don't want to use it. It doesn't help out. And at the higher altitudes the WEP doesn't work at all. At 4,500 meters this plane reaches 391 kilometers an hour, both with and without WEP, and at 6,500 meters still go up to 362, also with both options. So yeah, the speeds in this plane are decent, and it stays reasonably good to the higher altitudes, but yeah, it is in a hard place when it comes to that, because at this battle rating there are so many planes that are faster. So this is not really a fast plane when it comes to that. The top speed in a dive is quite decent with 786 kilometers an hour before she redlines, and she rips somewhere above 860. Now I dove down from 7k and from 8k and I could not make it rip. There is some drag on this plane, and that makes it harder at the end of the dive to accelerate enough to get to rip speed. So it's somewhere above 860. Those are the speeds that I made on those two dives. The control stiffening starts in the aileron compression at around 350 kilometers an hour, and you get a second tick at 450. That is early ticks in the roll rate there. This is not very good for the handling in a dive and your ability to get the guns on target in long dives. So that is a little bit of a handicap for this plane, as it does fly often in that roll. It's not really an energy fighter as well. The stall speed in this plane lies at around 115 kilometers an hour, which is alright. Firepower in the plane is decent to good. Decent if you look at the 450 cals, good for the version with the 650 cals. Yeah, so you have 4 or 6 12.7mm M2 Browning machine guns with 240 rounds per gun. And you can also equip this plane with 2 times 100-pound bombs if you want to do some ground pounding. Although I personally wouldn't recommend it, but there's many people playing tanks and they want to take a plane. So this plane is definitely capable of throwing some bombs. Now, the default belt is not an option because it contains ball rounds, which is basically ineffective most of the time. Universal belt is applicable. You have AP, tracer, incendiary. So 3/5 armor piercing with some incendiary in there as well, it's alright. You have ground belt, which is 75% AP and 25% tracer. You have tracer belts, which is 75% tracer and 25% AP. And then you have the stealth round with 66% armor piercing and 33% incendiary. So there is something for everybody. If you want to go ground pounding, you can take ground belt or universal belt, very close. Stealth belt is possible as well if you like the surprise factor. Tracer, some people really love their tracers, so yeah. For me it's often a little bit too much fireworks, so it messes a little bit with my aim, but for everybody something, there's something for everybody in here. And all 4 of these belts are reliable, they seem to do well, and definitely possible to use them. Now the ammo loads are decent on this plane. 240 rounds is quite nice to have indeed. Now the performance of this plane, the acceleration is decent both in a straight line and in a dive. Nothing terribly fantastic, but it's far from bad, so it's actually decent acceleration in this plane. The energy retention in the horizontal is average, and in the vertical it's below average. This plane does lose quite a bit of speed in the vertical, especially once you're rolling around and stuff like that, and it doesn't hold its energy very well in the horizontal as well. Now the climb rate in this plane is slightly above average. It is not great, but it is also it is a little bit in there, right? A little bit close to average, let's say. Turn time in the plane is decent, good with flaps. The flaps only rip off at around 540 kilometers an hour, which is quite good actually, because the that exceeds the maximum speeds in a straight line by far. And in a dive, of course, you can exceed that speed, but when you're maneuvering around, it's quite safe to use the flaps on this plane, and it helps with the turn time as well. Roll rate in the plane is below average, although it is decent before to the moment before you roll over. Basically, what makes the roll rate in this plane below average is when you get the canopy downwards towards the ground. Once you flip over that point, the roll rate really is bad at that point, and when you flip back over with the canopy being on top, it starts to become decent. So when you want to make a slight turn, the roll rate feels quite decent, but when you're in a rolling scissors, you are severely handicapped when you roll over the top, and then the roll rate just isn't that great. So yeah, there is a discrepancy there for where the roll rate is actually decent and where the roll rate is really bad, and that is the point where you flip over the plane. Once you fly into a straight line, you should test it out and you will see for yourself how that works, but it's an interesting mechanic. Now the maneuverability overall is above average to decent depending on what you're doing. If you're turn fighting and you're not rolling over further than what I just did in this turn, then the roll rate is actually decent, and the turn time is, as I said, decent to good with flaps. So this plane can be quite good in flat turn fights where you don't roll over the top, and once you're rolling over the top, your maneuverability gets hampered quite a bit. Overheating in this plane is very present with web. It needs management. It doesn't cool off very quickly either, so you gotta watch it. You don't want to go into a dogfight in the amber where you want to use web to get your loop done quicker over the top and stuff like that. So yeah, be careful with webbing. Durability is decent. It can take a hit or two. It feels quite sturdy, this plane. Survivability of the pilot is alright. It has a little bit of armor in there. But yeah, it feels alright. It's nice when it comes to that. The repair cost in this plane is 2,135 Silver Lions, which is on the high side. Definitely not the highest, but it's not on the lower side. So yeah, it's one of the more expensive planes to repair on this battle rating. The rewards multipliers are 236% for the research points and 120 for the Silver Lions. Now for the research points, that's about average. Many planes have that 236% modifier. And the Silver Lion multiplier is slightly above average, so that's decent. All in all, this plane is quite to my liking. I quite enjoy flying the Wildcats. Although they can have frustrating moments as well with the roll rate. If you want to go into rolling scissors, there are some downsides to this plane. Not the fastest plane in the world, and yeah, it's a basic plane that can be fun to fly, is quite maneuverable, and has a decent amount of firepower, especially on the second one. The other one rolls a little bit better, so it's more maneuverable and more fun. In here you go, you see this? That's where the roll rate really slows down, when you're upside down basically. Now, how do you want to use this plane? It is basically a turn fighter that can also boom and zoom a little bit, but the compression in the ailerons is present, and you have to be careful when you use that. So you have to have a specific dogfighting style in this plane to make it decent to good, instead of average or below average even when it comes to roll rate. So you don't want to roll the whole complete 360 degrees. That's what I'm saying there. And boom and zooming can be done even with the aileron compression, but you got to keep the plane steady and not roll too much. That will make you have to reset more often when you miss a target, when it turns away, but there's plenty of people not paying attention. So yeah, you have to balance between those two styles. It doesn't energy fight very well, as it loses a lot of energy in the vertical, unfortunately. But yeah, there is that. Now here we have the stat card on one of the matches. We got the best squad, Terror of the Sky, Bulletproof, 21,000 Silver Lions and 7,000 research points. I'll see you in the conclusion. Hey guys, so here we are after the match. Now the Wildcats are fun. I like them. 2.7 battle rating. It is a fun battle rating. There's a lot of competition at this battle rating. A lot of interesting iconic planes. That's really why I love props. The dogfighting and the iconic planes from the Second World War, which we all read about a lot. That's where most of our interest lies as pilots. At least it is very varied actually when it comes to that. Some people just enjoy missile thunder and head-on thunder. For the life of them, they wouldn't change it for anything else. I prefer my props. They are a lot of fun, and these Wildcats are fun planes indeed in the American line. The 3 is a little bit more maneuverable, the 4 has a little bit more firepower, so that's what you can choose from. I'm very interested to read what you guys prefer. I prefer for myself the 3 with a little bit more maneuverability. It really feels much more like a turn fighter, that plane. But sometimes with the 450 cals you miss the stopping power, so yeah, it's a balance, right? Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I want to thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye. If you're new here, make sure to hit the subscribe button, become part of this community. If you are already a subscriber, don't forget to like the video, do leave me a comment, and if you really feel like helping out today, make sure to share the video with your friends and let them know about the channel.